Hey, welcome to Tent Talk. This is the show all about farmers markets. Whether you're a farmers market manager, a farmer, or a food producer selling at farmers markets, or just a curious farmers market shopper, this is the podcast for you. On today's episode of Tent Talk, we talk with Megan Goehring of the Certified Farmers Markets of the Coachella Valley. We'll chat with Megan about the challenges in running markets that need to be indoors to escape intense heat part of the year, the extra cost involved in doing that, and how she attracts and retains sponsors to help. Hey, I'm one of your hosts, Bridget Myers. I've spent years as an on-site farmers market manager, and I do it all from pulling permits to social media marketing. And I'm the education coordinator at Farmers Market Pros.
And I'm Kat Fields-White, Director of San Diego Markets, still an active farmers market manager, hauling barricades, popping tents, founder of Farmers Market Pros, and producer of Intense, the Farmers Market Conference.
Schlepping those barricades. Well, welcome back to Tent Talk. Today we have Megan Goehring of the Certified Farmers Markets of the Coachella Valley with us on Tent Talk. Megan started as an eager customer of the Coachella Valley markets when they opened in 2008. She made a deeper and deeper digs into the world of farmers markets.
Get it.
I get it. Starting as a volunteer and advancing year after year to her current position as program manager. She likes to say it all happened organically, and you know we love that. A member of the California Alliance of Farmers Markets Steering Committee, Megan envisions a world where everyone in her community has access to fresh, high-quality food, and she works diligently to make that a reality. We love it.
I like somebody with a vision who also acts.
Excellent.
Yes,
That's what we like
take
here.
action.
That's what we like here. That's what we're about. Well, welcome to Tent Talk, Megan. Nice to have you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks.
So, Megan, how many markets are operated right now by Certified Markets of the Coachella Valley?
Okay, so right now, as of today in August, that would be one.
Okay, all right. And then throughout the year, how many do you run?
Right. So as you alluded to, our markets open and close based on the weather here in the Coachella Valley, which you also mentioned is intense at times.
Yeah. Where's Coachella? So for our listeners that aren't in California, where's the Coachella Valley?
So the Coachella Valley is in Southern California. We're about 2 miles east of the LA area. We are in Riverside County, which is a huge area filled with agriculture of all sizes. So we're actually part of the desert out here. So we're in the same latitude as Phoenix. So and our temperatures are similar to that big metropolis. But we have more of a small town feel here. We are a tourism economy. People come here from all around the world to enjoy our fabulous sunshine.
So Palm Springs and Palm Desert, those are familiar sounding towns, I think, to a lot of people just because of TV shows and, gossip magazines and that kind of thing.
It could be the Rat Pack, it could be Coachella, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, Coachella.
Yeah, Palm Springs.
Yeah.
And Palm Springs is where I am right now.
Nice. And so how many markets then out there throughout the year?
So we have 3 outdoor locations, which run from October through April. And then we have an indoor market in the summertime.
Okay. They started in 2008, right?
Correct. Yes, and I was actually there the very first day of the Palm Springs market. I was. I know. I was so excited for the market to open, and I like to say that it's true, actually. I stood in line. It was so popular from the very beginning. We had like 4 farmers, and they were just slammed. And I stood in line for like 20 minutes to buy a head of broccoli, and I was excited. I didn't even care. People got into like fights over the last few bits of produce. It was bedlam.
That's great.
I love that.
Yeah, it's good to have demand. Yeah. So they started with Palm Springs, and then so that one's been since 2008. That's what our little Italy market is.
Yeah.
And then when have the other markets opened? How recently?
Right. So the other markets opened pretty quickly. The next market to open was in La Quinta, and that was in the fall of 2008. And then at the beginning of 2009 was the Palm Desert Market.
Great.
Nice.
Is that a technical difficulty, or do you have a leaf blower outside your house, Megan?
That would be a leaf blower.
Okay, then we'll just go with that. Yeah. It's like being on a farm, tractors, machinery. We're just going to pretend that's what's happening.
Yeah.
All good.
We'll call it a tractor.
That's good. Yeah. Ambiance. So tell us a little about yourself. Do you come from a food or farming background, event management, or something completely different? I know we have a farmer that we interviewed not too long ago that was a quantum physicist. Yeah. What's your background, and then how did you find your way into farmers markets?
So, as a child, I grew up in my very early years in Oklahoma, and my mom had a gigantic garden, one of those Midwestern gardens. And so I grew up kind of running up and down the aisles of my mom's big garden. And then we moved to Phoenix. And so I lived in the desert for all the way through school. And it was a big frustration for my mom not to be able to have a traditional garden. I mean, you can do it here in the desert, and we can talk more about that later, but she was very frustrated. But she loved fresh produce and always bought the best for us. And so I've always been a big fan of fruits and veggies. But my I grew up in sales, and I worked at the Desert Sun newspaper, which is our local newspaper here. So I did some writing, I did some restaurant reviews and circulation sales management and that kind of thing. But I also, for about 8 years, I was a stay-at-home mom, which is what I did just prior to starting to volunteer at the farmers market. I had just had my third child, and I was totally overwhelmed and really needed to get out of the house and talk to grown people like an hour a day.
Bridget, you don't know anything about that, do you?
I don't know anything about that. I'm like, adults.
I was so excited. Yeah, I loved the farmers market, and I was really excited specifically to join one of our farms, Sage Mountain Farm, had a CSA.
We love them.
We supported agriculture, and I'd been reading about them, and so I was one of the first people in Palm Springs to sign up for their CSA. And shortly after that, I kind of finagled my way into hanging out at the market and talking to people about the CSA because I just wanted to get the word out. I was a true believer, and Phil kind of worked a deal with me so that I could come out and get my box for free and then spread the word about the CSA, and that's how I ended up at the farmers market.
Oh, smart Phil.
Yeah,
we love Phil.
We love Phil. He used to be at our markets, and he was great.
Yeah,
we loved him. So when you started volunteering at the markets as part of the market management team, and then you contracted with them, can you tell us how you kind of made that jump into working for the markets, going from Sage Mountain to working with the markets?
Yeah, so Paul and Giacomina, who started our markets, once they started their second market, they got, and then especially when the third market opened, they got really overwhelmed wanting to promote the markets themselves, but not literally having enough hours in the day to do that, to go to events and promote the markets as an entity, as an event. And so they had realized that I had the gift of gab, and so they asked if I would be willing to do some outside events for them just to promote the market itself.
Yeah.
And I was all in. I thought that was a great idea. And so I started to do that about a year after my volunteerism began. So I started doing some just contracted promotional work for the markets. And then as my daughter went off to preschool and I had some more time, they hired me as their assistant. And then as time went on, I took over the Palm Springs market, just that one market location. And then last summer, Paul had been working long distance, believe it or not. They moved to Grass Valley, and for 3 years, he was our general manager in absentia.
Oh, wow.
Like Charlie's Angels, like phone, and I would talk to him, and he would download wisdom on me, but he didn't come out very often. And then finally last summer, he retired. So now I am in charge of the whole shooting match. It's really been quite an evolution.
So you started, when did you take over? So you've gone through a season where you have multiple markets, or are you just working on the one now and you'll be in charge of everything once the other outdoor markets open up?
Right. So I'm in charge of the entire program. Right now we just have the one market location. So it's a little bit slower and easier in the summertime here. But once October rolls around, we'll open up all 3 of our outdoor markets, and the indoor market will close.
Oh, and you'll be busy. So what do your duties include? Running all those.
Everything, really. Yeah. Pretty much everything. So all the things you were talking about, the schlepping of the tents and the barricades. I do have a great assistant, Anthony, who helps me with a lot of logistical stuff, but pretty much everything falls to me. I do have a nutrition intern who's been helping me this past year, and she's fantastic. But yeah, my life gets really crazy. It's kind of a 7-day a week job.
Yeah, exactly.
It definitely is. I was talking to somebody very close to me, actually, we were talking about a particular market that we run, and he said, well, I mean, it's just 1 day a week. What, are you crazy? Do you not notice what I do all day, every day? What do you think I'm doing these other days? All that time on the computer, all that time doing document checks, filling out permits. No, it's not 1 day a week.
I know, and I feel like for many years, I felt like even when I wasn't in charge of the entire program, I felt like even when there wasn't a market going on and I wasn't physically doing any work, I feel like I'm thinking about it all the time.
Sure.
I'm thinking about all of the aspects, all of the bigger picture aspects that affect agriculture and affect the market.
Right.
And how do I better promote this? And, I should put this on social media. I mean, it just never leaves my mind, really.
Market dreams in the middle of the night, right?
Yep.
Hopefully not nightmares. Nightmares sometimes. Do you still so I first noticed you actually because I got the email newsletters from your farmers market organization, and they were always so well written, and I think that was you. We've got a lot of common elements in this group because Bridget and I actually published a trade magazine for restaurants, and so we've got some writing background and things too. So I recognized puns and clever turns of phrase. Do you still write the newsletters, or do you have somebody else doing that now?
I should be writing them more often. I will say that once I took over managing the entire program, the frequency with which I put out newsletters really decreased.
Oh, I don't understand that. I can't relate to that at all.
Well, are you busy with other stuff?
Busy with other things, perhaps.
No, I mean, writing that newsletter was really my passion project. And that was one of the first things that Paul gave me as a project when I first started working for them. And it was very, very brief at the very beginning, and it grew into something that really was more of an extension of me personally, as well as our markets specifically.
Yeah, it has a lot of personality to it, and it's amazing how effective that is. Charlotte Smith teaches that at the conference every year, that relationship marketing and really letting your personality shine through in those things is so effective in terms of building loyal customers. So it's cool. So we talked a little bit about it's really hot there. But you are staying open year-round, right, by moving inside. How does managing the markets change during that season? You go down to one market, obviously. Do you have less farmers and vendors in the summertime? Does their production change? What changes about managing during the summer there?
It's interesting. I mean, our vendors and farmers that come out to that one market, predominantly the people that participate in the Palm Springs market, we don't lose too many. Almost all of the farms are the same. We lose a couple of vendors because they go out of town, and the interesting thing about each one of our market locations is that each one of them has its own personality. So my Palm Springs market caters to the Coachella Valley's foodies. And so these are the people that are using the farmers market as their grocery store. So they'll spend $100 every time they come. And they're buying a lot of produce. And so the farmers do really well at that location, and the vendors not as much as, say, our La Quinta market, where it's more of a tourist market, or it's a market where people come to the market to do something on a Sunday, but not necessarily to fill their refrigerator. And so some of my vendors go off and do other events and wait until all three markets are open and wait until we're in high season. So, we kind of whittle down as an area to our year-round residents. And as it turns out, our year-round residents most of them live in Palm Springs. And so we're fortunate that the one location that we've been able to secure and hang on to based on a relationship with the city of Palm Springs is here in Palm Springs, where most of our year-round loyal customers are.
Oh, that's good. I mean, that kind of covers the answer to our next question, which was going to be why go through all that? Why not just close for the season like some of the markets in America do during the winter? Some of the really cold areas, they'll close their market, or the market will only be open, say, from April to October. Why not do that instead of staying open year-round? But if you have year-round grocery shoppers...
We do. And the other thing is, the first couple of years that we were open, we didn't have a location and we didn't have an option. And it was so sad because We pull our farmers from a 100-mile radius around the Coachella Valley. Very few of them actually are right here in the desert. Many of them come from microclimates where they continue to grow fantastic produce all year round.
Right.
And so having to say goodbye to people because we didn't have a location for them to sell was really sad, because we did have customers that wanted to continue to buy. And so, we diligently looked for an alternative arrangement. But finding an indoor location that meets all of the requirements that we need for our market is really challenging.
Yeah. What kind of space are you in? What is it used for the rest of the year, and how did you get that space?
Yeah, it's a really interesting space. It's a community building that was built in the early 70s. So it's lots of glass doors all the way around. It has a big sort of ballroom floor. It's got a big commercial kitchen. It's got a stage, big bathrooms. It's used for everything from quilt shows to cat shows to quinceañeras.
Oh.
Anybody can use, can rent it for a big event. They have, the local high school is right across the street. They have their SAT exams in there. It's used by lots of different people in our community. In the summertime, during the week, it has a summer camp for kids ages first grade all the way through middle school. So it's a lot of action. It's a very busy location. And the way that we have arranged to make it work is our markets are under the Palm Springs Cultural Center, which is a 501c3. And we could not afford to pay the regular rate ourselves. But the city of Palm Springs, fortunately, feels like our market is an important investment in our community. And so we apply for a city grant every year, which basically covers the cost of renting the facility.
Wow, that's really nice.
Yeah. It's
So,
fantastic.
So you get a grant for the space there, and then do your market stall fees support your markets, or do you need to get outside financial support from outside the market, both in the summer and during the regular season when you have multiple markets? How do you work that with your program?
Yeah, so we definitely utilize our stall fees to help defray some of our costs. But in order to do a lot of our other programming, and we do have great sponsorship through one of our local healthcare providers here that does our care network, has given to us generously on a regular basis. We also have some great grants through Rabobank and also Union Bank of California to help with our matching funds, because we accept EBT, and we can also accept WIC currency, and we also match those currencies as well, 10 for 10. So we are always looking for grants to support those programs. And then we also recently got a terrific grant through a local philanthropic organization, the Anderson Children's Foundation, which supports programming specifically that helps the health and welfare of children in the Coachella Valley. And so that's going to help our nutrition education program. In the past, we have traveled all throughout the Coachella Valley talking to third graders. I do an hour-long presentation inside the classroom talking about the benefits of eating local produce. So the economic benefits, the health benefits, and the ecological benefits. But the cool thing about this new grant that we got, and it's a $20,000 grant, is we're going to be able to bring those kids to the market.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So we'll the big expensive thing in expanding that program is the busing.
Yeah.
So that will cover our busing costs, and also we'll be able to pay our fantastic intern who's been working for us for free for a whole year, and we'll finally pay her some money.
Oh, that's great.
It's always good to upgrade those interns.
I mean, in third grade is a perfect age because those are the kids that if you get them hooked on a concept, they will nag you to death. So, I mean, once they're convinced that you have to eat local food, they will make their parents go.
Yeah. Oh, I love talking to third graders, man. They are so excited. Everybody's raising their hands. They want to tell you what they know, and they're so excited when they get a question right. And oh man, they're awesome. I can keep them enthralled for an entire hour with no lag time at all.
Wow, they're so excited, and they're such little evangelists. When we were going through the bad drought, one of Bridget's boys was in third grade, and he would turn the water off on you in the shower.
Yeah, he would come in and say, "There's a drought. You got to get out." And he would turn the water. I'm like, I have like shampoo in my hair, and he's like, "Mom, there's a drought." So it's like
third
it's a
graders are the
great
best.
age. Yeah, it's a great age. He still does that. He's in fifth grade now, so it's a great age to go and talk to the market, to talk to the kids about the markets too, and just build those habits. And they'll nag their parents to take them, and just build those habits really young. That's such a great program.
That's right. Yeah, really wonderful. Now I remember, but I don't remember the details. I think we were on a California Alliance of Farmers Market Steering Committee call or something like that. But didn't you recently have a kerfuffle with either a sponsor or a venue or something that you had to figure out, Megan?
Yeah. Unfortunately, it was a little bit more than a kerfuffle. It's what ended up happening this year. We actually had a second market location for the past 2 years. We had a market location inside of a Westfield shopping mall, which is, the big mall in Palm Desert. We were so excited to open a second location to cater to our customers that lived in our Mid Valley and East Valley, because Palm Springs is way over on the west side of our area. And it was a good location in the sense that it was air conditioned and had bathrooms and was centrally located and plenty of parking. It was a little tricky because we were really sort of buried down inside the mall, and there was, we had to work out new signage to explain to people where we were, and with an indoor location, that's always a big issue. Mm-hmm. But our board of directors took a really close look at the 2-year profit and loss statement for that location, and they were very concerned with how expensive it was for us to run a market in that location, because the mall charged us as if we were a vendor. And although we did get some sponsorship through the city of Palm Desert, they did not cover the entire cost to operate the market like the city of Palm Springs does, because, the Westfield malls are owned by an international conglomerate. And although they allow their locations to do sort of outreach to the community, they will not allow their locations to do outreach to the community that don't bring in money.
Oh, yeah. Interesting. Okay. Yeah. For some reason, I thought Westfield would think that was kind of a good marketing thing for them, just to increase traffic. But
you'd think so, wouldn't you?
Yeah. But no, I take it.
But no.
But that was decided really close to the opening of your indoor market season, right?
It was crazy. Yeah. We had to make a final decision. Well, yeah, it was a variety of different things. It would have been great if our board had taken a closer look at those numbers, like in November, and we would have had more time to find another location, or at least start to consider that, or try to find outside sponsorship to defray the cost. But it was April, and to move into the mall in May.
Wow.
Oh, kind of the final hour there. That's too bad.
Yeah.
Is there a happy ending there at all? Were you able to incorporate the farmers into your other indoor market, or is it just like too far apart for those market audiences to cross over?
So we lost a couple of farmers and vendors who normally, because that market was taking place on Sunday. So for the past 2 years, we had 2 indoor locations. We had one on Saturday in Palm Springs and one on Sunday in Palm Desert. And so we lost one farm and a couple of vendors who normally would have been at that location. And there was a lot of confusion in the community. We did the best we could to explain what was going on. But it was kind of heartbreaking, actually.
Yeah, that's too bad. So long term, are you going to be looking for another location for that for next year? Or?
I would love to think that there is another location that might work out.
It's tough though, right? You need a big space.
Yeah,
to market inside.
A really big space, and a space that either someone is willing to cover the cost of, or the owner of the location is willing to just say, I'm doing this for my community.
Right.
And so, it's challenging. There are other community centers in the Coachella Valley, but none of them are quite like the one in Palm Springs. None of them have, it's 10,000 square feet of space.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yeah, that's something that doesn't I mean, there's just
Yeah,
not
it's
available.
just only, so many kind of buildings
Exactly.
like that.
How do you attract and retain sponsors for
Sounds like you're doing
your
pretty
programs?
good.
Yeah.
I mean, pretty well in sponsorships with the banks and things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it helps. So our nonprofit is it has a larger overarching umbrella than the markets and the operations of the markets. We also, as of 2 years ago, we own a movie theater. The nonprofit does, and we run film festivals out of the movie theater. And so our goal is to provide the full spectrum of culture in the Coachella Valley. And so with that and with the team of people that we have working for that overarching goal, we're fortunate that we could utilize those skills to bring in funding and the relationships that have been built over the past 12 years.
So does somebody with the cultural center, do you have a grant writer there or somebody that helps secure sponsorships?
So we have a grant writer that we contract with to look for grants for us. And she used to live here in the desert, but now she lives in Idaho. But that doesn't stop people from doing business anymore.
Sure.
So she knew of the people at the Anderson Children's Foundation, for instance.
Oh, nice.
And she had worked with them in the past, and she was key in helping us get that grant for sure.
That's a smart idea because we get a lot of questions about, well, how do I go get sponsorship and how do I find the time to do all of that? So if your organization can, as your farmers market group, contract with somebody, that's a great option to use.
Makes so much sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because then you can use your time doing other things like schlepping barricades and getting permits.
Curating vendors.
That's right.
Right. Visiting farms. That's
right.
Farms,
mm-hmm. Yeah.
Doing all that stuff, yeah.
I mean, speaking of curating, you guys have pretty high standards about keeping the farmers market a farmers market. So what's the percentage of farmers versus other vendors that you strive for? And how successful are you at hitting that? Because I think it's a pretty high number.
I would say at least 50%.
That's a lot.
And we do hit that.
Wow. So how many tents do you have at your market?
So with Palm Springs at the height of season, about 50.
Okay, so that makes some sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it gets tougher, I think, as you get into a really big market.
Yeah,
to keep it, just because there's only so many farmers, but still, that's a nice sized market, 50, and if half of them are farmers, that's terrific.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we, because this is Palm Springs, this is not San Diego, it's not LA. We don't have the consumer base to have 6 people all selling the same thing for one thing. Mm-hmm. And so I'm very careful about making sure that we fill every commodity niche without too much overlap, because I want everybody to be able to make money.
Sure.
And so it is really interesting that we'll have visitors who are from an area where the farmers market stretches for 6 blocks, and they come to my market and they're like, "Oh, this market's so cute." And then here's what I love. What I love is when I have somebody like that take a walk around the market and they come to me and they say, "You know what? I came to this market and I was kind of rolling my eyes, and then I walked around and I talked to people and I looked at what they had to offer. And this market is one of the highest quality markets I've ever seen. Every single person has a fantastic story, and everything is the highest quality I've ever seen before." And, that makes my day, because that's our goal, is to make sure that, we have the highest quality available. And it is tricky to get people to come out here. I mean, it's an hour and a half drive for a lot of our farmers to come here. And so it's a big investment for them. I have one farm that comes all the way from Bakersfield. Like, they literally drive 4 hours to get here.
Yeah, it's crazy. We got some of those in San Diego, people that drive so far, but it's where the shoppers are, so it makes sense for them. But you've got to then be doing that whole job of making sure that the shoppers show up and doing enough marketing. And it sounds like you're doing a perfect job of curating your market so that there's choice for shoppers, but not so much overlap that those folks can't make a living after they make that long haul. I mean, markets don't have to be big.
No.
Small markets can be really, really valuable based on the size of their community and the number of shoppers you've got to draw on. It's all all about the curating. And if you're smart about what you're putting in there, you can still get everything you need at the farmer's market.
Yeah, exactly. We have a market. So we do a big market on Saturdays, and then we have a market in Pacific Beach that we've done for years, and it stays real steady at like a block and a half. There's probably 55 tents there at any given time. And it's like 30% farmers, but really good farmers. And I was talking to another market manager at the conference last year, just at one of the reception times, and saying, you should go on our Yelp page for the Pacific Beach Tuesday Farmers Market. And every other review on there is, I love this market. It's not as big as Little Italy or Hillcrest, or they'll name a couple big markets in town, but it has everything you need. I love it. I can walk around. I can talk to people for longer because there aren't such huge crowds. I enjoy this market more than those big busy markets because I'm doing my grocery shopping. So it's like, it doesn't have to be this huge market. And I, as a farmers market manager and shopper, I love the PB market too, because same thing. The farmers and the vendors have a little more time to chat with me because they're not cranking out lines of customers. So, I mean, there's really pros and cons to both styles of markets, but those like smaller markets, smaller doesn't mean worse in any, matter of the, I mean, it's
still meet your community's needs perfectly.
Exactly.
Yeah, as long as they're curated well.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. As long as your selection of vendors, exactly. So as long as you select good vendors and you don't have too much overlap, but you have a little bit of choice, and it's just good quality people that come out to sell.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And I will also say that, there are two other really big outdoor events in the Coachella Valley that run year round. One is a Thursday night event that's run by the city of Palm Springs.
We've been to
and
that.
It's been going for over
with bananas.
And they are not a farmer's market. They are an art fair. That is what they are.
But they called themselves a farmer's market, right? Or they used to?
No, so when I first moved here 22 years ago, there actually was a farmer's market section. But it didn't take long for that part of that event to die out. Mm-hmm. And, because they were primarily an art fair, and the parking was very difficult. It was really hard to get in and out of the section that had the farmer's market in it. And so people would come, with $40 in their pocket. And by the time they got down to the farmer's market section, they'd already bought some jewelry and a piece of art, and they didn't have money for the farmers.
Yeah.
It was really hard to schlep everything back to their car. And so it just logistically, it didn't work for that location. So now I think they have maybe one reseller, that sells bananas and
yeah, because Bridget and I were there and we were like wait a minute.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, and then there's an event that's at our local community college that's put on by the Alumni Association, and it's more of like a flea market. There's, sunglasses and, Peruvian wraps and all kinds of other crazy stuff there. And it's very popular, but it is also not a farmer's market. And so when Paul and Giacomino decided to start this market, they were like, this is what we're going to focus on. This is going to be a real honest to goodness farmers market. And we're going to bring in farmers. And this is what we're going to do to set ourselves apart from these other two events. Not that there's anything wrong with those events.
Sure.
Yeah. But we're not going to do that. And that's one of the reasons why I have very few vendors that have anything other than artisan food. It's mostly artisan food, with a few vendors that are sort of based on sustainability. I have a knife sharpener and, that kind of stuff. But generally it's food. That's what we have.
Our midweek market, we have almost no non-food there, but what we do place sometimes is what we call grocery store non-food. So soap, that kind of thing, handmade soap.
Yeah.
Tablecloth guy.
Right.
Yeah.
So you also have a strong focus on certified organic farmers, right? And
so I have a few. I have Sage Mountain Farm. I have Jaime Farms, JF Organics, and I have had people that have some organic, USDA organic, but some not. I would love to see more USDA organic produce, but most of my farms are so very small that financially going through the trouble of getting the certification has not been feasible for them.
Do you think it's mostly a financial thing? We have a lot of conversations too with some of our old school farmers who actually used to be USDA certified organic, and we've got a fair amount of them actually that have like a political problem with the current organic certification because the tolerances have gone up in some ways and that kind of thing. Do you look at alternative certifiers at all? Like the certified organically grown, those kind of guys?
Yeah, I haven't had anybody come to me saying, I've got this other certification.
Okay.
I advertise it. I haven't had anybody, want to publicize alternative certification.
Gotcha. Yeah, we hear a little bit about that here and there, but not everywhere.
Mm-hmm. So some old school farmers and managers are kind of a little disdainful of non-farm vendors and entertainment at the market, including everything from like prepared food to kids activities and bounce houses. Where do you guys draw your lines with that? You said you're about half farmers, but what about the other stuff?
So I certainly do. I do hire musicians. I don't pay them a whole heck of a lot, but I have musicians at every single market, and we pay the ASCAP fees for them so they can play whatever they want. They get good gigs off of the farmers market because our customers are very active in the community and they have events here, and so they hire them for other events.
Yeah, that happens.
So that's the trade-off.
Yeah, absolutely.
But so as far as the other kinds of events that we have at the market, they're mostly events that are put on by our organization. So this past Saturday, we had an event that we do yearly at our indoor market called Family Nutrition Day. So it's a free event that goes on concurrently and inside the market where we have free family activities. So we had a chef doing kids cooking classes. We had youth yoga. We had a guy come in and do screen printing on market bags, and everything was either free or if you wanted to, there was a suggested donation if you wanted to donate money for the supplies. And our participants loved it. We got a lot of traffic from families who they'd never seen before, never come to the market before. And so they love those events. This past year, we also had a market artist who donated her time and her supplies to do sustainable art projects. And so that's something new that we offered, and that was also free. So we're trying really hard because I think it's partly because, our nonprofit is dedicated to culture of all kinds, and also to sustainability, that we put on events either concurrent to or within the body of the market to encourage people to utilize our market as a community hub, a place to come because there's always something going on and it's free to the public.
Yeah, we find that, there's kind of like a line between you don't want to turn into like a carnival, but offering activities for the community is just a better way to get that extra foot traffic to the market, to help people understand that a farmer's market is a community event, that it is for you to come out and have a good time. And this is why you're not going to the grocery store and just pushing a cart around and leaving. It's a place to come and spend time. So yeah, we see that a lot of our markets.
But it's always that fine line you're walking because you don't want people so busy with activities that they're not remembering that you have to grocery shop in order to make the farmer's time worth showing up.
Yeah.
So you don't want them to just show up and throw cornhole bags.
Yeah.
You want them to also buy those groceries. So we always kind of go back and forth on that. And we have vendors and farmers that are absolutely thrilled that we do a lot of things to just provide more reasons for people to show up at the farmers market because they know that rising tide floats all boats, more people, more sales. And then we have farmers that are just, this should be a farmers market. You shouldn't be having all that stuff going on.
The only time I ever had a complaint about an event that we threw at the market was last summer because we are indoors, the sounds, the smells, everything is contained in our indoor market. And we had, on Family Nutrition Day last year, we had a kids rock band. So it was 5 kids. They were all 12 and 13 years old, and they had attended a rock band camp. And these kids were super talented, but they rattled the windows.
I know, I see where you're going with this.
And oh my gosh, some of the farmers that were really near to where they were playing, again, everyone was near because we were inside of one building. They were like, please never have them again. I couldn't talk to my customers. That was awful.
Yeah, we ride
And,
that
there
line
were
a lot. Yeah.
rock on, that was amazing.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, put Phil next to him. I think he'd rock out.
Yeah.
It'd be fine.
Oh, Phil. Well, so Megan, what's next do you call your market CFMCV? Do you abbreviate like that, or we just?
Yeah, I say that in written correspondence mostly, just because Certified Farmers Markets of the Coachella Valley is
Yeah.
a mouthful.
Yeah.
So what do you say when you're talking to people for short?
The Certified Farmers Markets, just because we're the only ones. There's no other farmers markets in our area.
Oh, gotcha.
So I just
There you
talk
go.
about
Makes it easy.
It's-
So what's next for your certified farmers markets and for you personally, and what are you up to now?
Well, so then, just most immediately it's transitioning from our indoor market to our outdoor markets, trying to contract with some new farms and visiting some new farms, and facilitating the grant to bring all of these new kids physically to the market. That's going to be the big, exciting, transition of this year. We have always wanted to have a location at the far end of the Coachella Valley. I'd love to have a market in Indio, and that would be a really special market. It would be a market with a different demographic than the three markets that we've had in the past. It would require a lot of community support from the city of Indio, but again, it's all about the location, because we have had a market at the far end of the Coachella Valley that didn't work very well, in part because the city of Coachella wanted it to be in a location where there wasn't enough traffic. And so we really learned our lesson from that experience.
Yeah.
I would really love to have a market in Indio. That would be amazing. And I think it would really, really serve that community in a really vibrant way. So I'm always got my ear out for some possibilities for that. And I would love to find another indoor location for next summer.
Maybe somebody will hear this podcast and say, I've got a really, really big spot. I'm going to call Megan right now.
Just the spots.
Go for that.
We got to, yesterday was 117 for that.
Yeah, we're from Arizona.
We lived in Arizona for a long time. We're really happy to be at the beach.
We have thin blood now because we've been having like a heat wave, and it's been
like 82.
Yeah, it's been 82 and sweltering. My sister still lives in Arizona, and she just laughs. I said, I'm so hot. I had to turn on my AC today for like 2 hours just to get over this heat, and she's just like, don't call me.
My heart beats for you.
Yeah, right.
Well, it's beautiful out there, though, and I do love the desert. It's a great place to be and live. Awesome. Well, thanks so much for speaking with us. We do always do like a little question of the week now that we have an interviewee. We've been doing some episodes with just Kat and I lately, so it's nice to have a guest. So our question for this week is, what's the best community activity you've ever offered at your market or seen at a different market?
Interesting. Well, I have a really exciting event that I'm hoping to put on this coming February. We have a real commitment to sustainability at our markets, and also through the Palm Springs Cultural Center, and we want to do a community clothing swap.
Oh, that's a good idea.
We did it at one of the events that the farmers market sponsors. Is we have a sustainable film series at one of the sustainable films that we ran this past year. It was about the fast fashion industry, and we had a little bitty clothing swap. But I am fired up. I'm so excited. I really, really want to do that concurrent to the market. So it would be open to the entire community. People can bring their clothing, and they can take as much as they want. They can drop off as much as they want. And, we're going to get these people off fast fashion.
Oh, that's good.
I love that. That's such a great idea. I just am convinced my daughter to stop shopping at Forever 21 and all those shops at the mall, because she's going off to college. And I've been explaining to her, like, we watched Minimalism. It wasn't really like about fast fashion, but just in general, like not accumulating so much stuff in your life. And they talk about fast fashion in there and how it's like it's like trash clothes. Like, why would you keep buying those? Right. And so I think she's kind of getting it. She goes thrift shopping now, and That's been nice. She steals a lot of my clothes. She's like, look, I'm reusing. I'm like, oh, I was going to wear that.
Hey, Mom, I'm a minimalist. Aren't you proud of me?
Aren't you proud of me? Sorry, your closet's empty.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
Have her watch The True Cost.
Okay.
That movie will change her mind for sure.
True Cost. Okay. Yeah, I will. I know. I love all that info. And I'm excited for her to head off to college because, those college kids, they get all sorts of like ideas how to save the world. So maybe she'll be teaching me some stuff. I like it.
That's right.
What do you think, Kat? What's the best activity that we've done at our markets or that you've seen at another market?
Oh my gosh, I've seen such really good activities. We do some. We probably don't do enough community activities.
We're kind of lame-o with it.
Yeah, we do some. Mm-hmm. But I've seen some good ones. Union Square Green Market has an ongoing activity that involves a compost drop, which I think is awesome. People can come and drop their compostables there, and the farmers drop them, and then the farmers take them away. It's all really well done. California makes it difficult to do that because of our laws here, so that's hard. But I do think one of the kind of coolest activities I've seen is I think I was at the Nashville market, and they were doing a blind taste test with tomatoes, different varieties of tomatoes, that the actual shoppers got to go through, and they tasted tomatoes. They were numbered. It didn't identify which farm it was from, and they narrowed it down. They dropped little coupons in for their first 3 choices, and then narrowed it down to, I think got down to 4 or 5, and then they actually got to fill out notes that said why they liked different tomatoes better, and somebody was the tomato king at the end, and it was pretty fun. People got a chance to sort of delve into biodiversity and how all tomatoes aren't alike, and not only are these tomatoes different from the long, storable, durable tomatoes that you get at the farmer's market, at the grocery store that have had taste bred out of them, but also, if you've got 6 farmers selling tomatoes at the market, there's a good chance those are 6 really different flavors going on. So that was a really cool activity.
Smart.
I liked that.
That's really smart. Yeah.
How about you?
Well, we've done some cool activities at our markets throughout the years. I really we used to have a local artist. Her name was Mona Lizzie's art studio.
Right.
So
she
cute.
was awesome.
And she came and did kids activities at the markets, like around the holidays. And she did something.
Oh, the squash turkeys.
The squash turkeys. And she would make things out of vegetables and do scavenger hunts and things. And she did an art project where it was like, use your market trash to make art out of. And so they'd use little like strawberry baskets, like those plastic baskets, and cartons and berry boxes and things like that. And then, if they had plastic bags, like that had been used. So shoppers would come drop their stuff off there, and they made all sorts of cool stuff. And then it was also a lesson about, if you use a reusable bag, you won't be accumulating all this trash, and like bring your own straw, because then look at all the straw trash that we have at the market. And it was smart. My son came and did it, and he, talked about it forever. Like, oh, we don't have to take the strawberry baskets. We can put the strawberries in our reusable produce bag and give the farmer back the basket and things like that. So we still do stuff to this day because of her little art lesson. So
we should do that again.
I know, it's great.
She's awesome. And now there's an animated character, in mainstream media. We have Forky.
Oh, yeah. From Toy Story.
That's right. From Toy Story, right?
That's right. Should accumulate him or build him into the market project somehow.
I feel like there should be a grant from, who is that? Who produces Toy Story?
Pixar.
Yeah. Pixar should be supporting farmers markets and featuring Forky. What do you think? I think we have a campaign here.
If you work at Pixar and you're listening to this Talk podcast,
reach out.
We're here.
Yeah, we're here. Well, thanks so much, Megan. Really appreciate it, your time, and looking forward to continuing conversations and watching your markets kind of grow and keep thriving. And
Bridget and I will be back out in the fall.
Yeah,
when it's a little cooler.
We'll come back out when the desert's really nice.
Now.
I mean, the desert is really nice in the winter season.
It is. Yeah.
It's a trick, because you're like, oh, it's beautiful out here, I'll just move here, and then
that's why
July,
Phoenix tricks people.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. I call
Thanksgiving visitors.
I call it seasonal amnesia. People they get to the end of September and they're like, this is it. I am moving. I am done with this desert. And then you get to January and you're like, I live in
so beautiful.
My life is perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
It's okay. We end up living out there. All right. Well, and thank you, everyone else. Thank you so much for listening today. Please leave us a review on iTunes and tell us how you liked today's episode. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss the next one. And remember that super early bird tickets for Intense, the Farmers Market Conference, are on sale until August 31st. Save almost half when you buy now, and join us February 2nd, 3rd, and 4th in beautiful cool weather, San Diego. Cool weather, but not snowing.
Not that cool.
Yeah, San Diego, California in February for 3 days of workshops, networking, education, and fun. And if you want more farmers market tips, you can subscribe to our weekly newsletter at farmersmarketpros.com and follow us on Instagram at farmersmarketpros. This podcast is produced by Farmers Market Pros, where passion meets profit. Today's episode was edited by Justine Marzoni Mead. Thank you, Justine. And original music by David Mead. Special thanks to our guest, Megan. Thank you so much, Megan. And San Diego Markets. Thanks, Megan, for chatting with us.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah, we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, that was fun.
All right.
So we're going to come see you.
Yeah. Come out and
awesome.
check you out.
Yeah. Are you going to tell me when, or are you going to be like Ag and just show up?
I'm going to tell you when, only because we've actually been to your markets a couple times, but I've never caught you there. So next time we come out, we're going to tell you when so that we can see you.
Yeah, I do tend to run around a lot, so I may have even been there and I was just like running around.
Yeah, it's possible. And we were out there in the fall, and although we were there one summer, we were there in August for a wedding.
Yeah.
When we went out. I feel like we found it, but maybe not. Maybe it was later because it was outside.
When was that? Yeah.
Anyway, it could have been there were multiple markets going on, and you may have been at a market that we weren't at. So this time, we'll tell you we're coming this time.
I'll track you down. I love Palm Springs and that whole area out there. It's so pretty.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
All right.
All right. Thanks,
Thank
Megan.
you.
We'll talk to you soon.
Okay. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.